It's time for MacBreak Weekly. We got a great lineup for you today. Andy Ihnatko is joined by Adam Christianson of MacCast and Victor Cajiao of the Typical Mac User and the Typical Shutterbug podcasts. And we're going to talk about iAds, iPads, and yes, even the Macintosh. MacBreak Weekly is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 215, recorded October 5th, 2010. Zapping the PRAM. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Go to Assist Express. If you're in tech support, clients rely on you for fast service. Help them the fast and easy way with Go to Assist Express. For a free 30-day trial, visit gotoassist.com/MacBreak. And by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to publish a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off the lifetime of your new account, go to squarespace.com/MacBreak and use the offer code MacBreak. And by Gazelle, the easy way to sell or recycle the used gadgets lying around your home or office. Don't just sell it, Gazelle it. For a 5% bonus payment for your used gadgets, go to Gazelle.com. Bonus code MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers everything that happens out of Cupertino. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, fresh as a daisy and looking fine as a fettle. Mr. I don't know what a fettle is, but you're fine. Mr. Andy Ihnatko from the Chicago Sun-Times. Good to see you.
It is a fiddle and ready for love, Leo.
Yes.
Thanks.
Andy just serenaded us with an Elvis song, which was quite nice.
So long as things get lost on our computers, so long as people have to reset Skype, there will always be the entertainment value of the Andy Ihnatko Dynamo ukulele experience.
Yes. Yes.
Available for short bookings anywhere in the New England metro area.
Soon to be at Pigeon Forge, the Dollywood. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting.
We can only hope. I'm hoping this goes viral.
It might.
Like on This America's Got Talent, being rated by millionaires.
America does have talent. Speaking of talent, we also have with us, I'm really happy to say, from MacCast, Adam Christianson.
Hey, how you doing?
Great to see you again, Adam.
Yeah, it seems like I just saw you.
He was just in studio with us 2 days ago. And I said, why haven't we had you lately on MacBreak Weekly? And he said, well, I don't know why. I've got a microphone, I've got a puff protector, and I'm not afraid to use it.
Yes.
And so here he is.
It's almost like a nice little goatee or something, if I can.
Yeah, position it just properly. Also here, and I'm going to pronounce his name so correctly, from the Typical Mac User podcast, Victor Cajiao.
Oh, those were dulcet tones.
Did I say that
Spanish.
right? Cajiao. Victor was also in studio on Sunday. I guess Victor and Adam and Gene McDonald from Smile and Chris Breen and who else? We're all in Petaluma.
Well, Jeff Gamet from Mac Observer was with us, but he had to catch a flight before, so he wasn't able to make it into the studio. But Jeff Gamet, Brian Chafin, Derek Story was there.
Story
doing some photography stuff. Yeah, it was great.
It's amazing. What a great... this is for the North Coast Macintosh Users Group. They have an annual Mac Fair, Mac Convention Expo in Petaluma, which I've never made because I do a radio show on Saturdays. And I'm tied down here. But it's nice that you guys came by. Thank you. And thank you for
my wife. I think we found our retirement area.
Isn't it beautiful here?
Oh, I came home and I said, Hillsburg specifically, I said, we're going back and we're going to go look for homes. I mean, it's a beautiful area.
Hillsboro you're talking about?
Yeah.
Right Healdsburg. Oh, it's gorgeous. That's the wine. That's the heart of the wine country. Yeah, I love Healdsburg. Yeah. Great restaurants there too, Victor. Next time you're up here, let me know. I'll take you and the missus out to Cyrus, which is a wonderful restaurant there. There's also
Thanksgiving week. We're already planning it.
All right.
I'm serious about this.
There's some great restaurants up there. So let's talk Macintosh. First of all, an apology. I think we only have one Macintosh story all day long. Do you even have? Would you rename MacCast to Padcast? No.
No. No. I think we're safe. You know, we talked about this, right? The branding, and you've got MacBreak Weekly.
MacBreak Weekly, but we don't talk about Macs anymore because all the action. I mean, Apple obviously still makes Macs and OS X and iWork and iLife, but all the action's happening in the portable space these days.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that at the conference. The theme was iFuture, and it was, you know, what's happening. There seems to be a big focus on iOS now and what's happening with macOS. And I know the Pro guys are getting a little impatient now about what's happening with the Pro apps and things like that.
Right. I think there's a rumor that the new Final Cut is soon to be out, right? Have you heard that, Victor?
We hope so. I mean, I've been reading some of the boards from the pros and stuff, and there's just a lot of buzz. That there's some last-minute delays, I heard, again, and but all the pro guys are really ready. And some people, I mean, BBC, they jumped ship and went to Premiere just recently. Yep, they did. They did. And
at least Macintosh Premiere, not Windows Premiere, right?
Yeah, I think that they actually went to the Adobe product. Stand corrected.
But they're running it on Macs, not Windows.
Oh yeah, I'm sure of that.
Because Premiere for a long time you couldn't get Premiere on Mac, but I think you can now. Am I wrong?
No, you can't.
No, you're right.
Yeah. So at least they didn't have to scrap their hardware.
But there's some real concerns out there in the pro community about, you know, what it's going to be and if it's going to fulfill everything. Between that, and I mean, I've had discussions several times between that and then getting the hardware after spiff. You know, with things like USB 3, this kind of thing.
Andy, you've said they're never going to neglect the Mac.
No, I just think that this is a time when they need to get the kid upright, talking, and then off to school, and then they'll bring their attention back to Mac OS. The other big problem is that they don't. I'm not sure whether they're planning on 10.7 or 11.0, and so I'm really interested. Anybody who wants to know what Apple's going to be doing next year, I really think this is one of the first times in 10 years that, in terms of the Mac hardware and software goes, the ball's completely up in the air, and it's a hard time to really guess what they're going to be up to.
I mean, Snow Leopard really was hardly. I mean, it was a minor upgrade. It was a polish. Even Apple said it.
Yeah, and Apple said that well before it was released. They were always saying that 10.5 is going to be the last real Gates of Gomorrah scale update to the OS for a while, because that's the first one where they feel as though they've checked off just about everything that was on the list for Mac OS X, which it sort of leaves us thinking, are they going to put it in maintenance mode at this point, or are they now thinking about the next wave of devices that they've got on the chalkboard for the next 3 years and the sort of operating system that will unite all of mobile, all of the cloud, and all of the desktops together into one? They might be a lot more ambitious than just, you know, adding support for new printers.
It's a challenge, though, to think of what you could do.
Sorry, I was going to say our panel was really reaching the conclusion that the cloud was something that was going to be a big factor. And you bring up the data center. You know, everybody wants to know what's going on with that data center. So
what is it? Project Dolphin?
Is that what it's codenamed? I had not heard that.
I think that's it. Something like that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we still haven't heard. You know, everybody thought, oh, maybe that'll be their Lala or their video streaming center or blah 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 blah. Nothing.
Yeah, we were just thinking it might need to be bigger with the iOS devices, and like Andy was kind of mentioning, there seems like a bigger update that's going to converge and kind of bring all these things together, and whether that's based on iOS or OS X, and iOS is based on OS X, so
right. As in our chat room, let me give him credit. As iBookery says in our chat room, Project Dolph Lundgren. That was destined to go down in obscurity. I have to say, I mean, I look at what Microsoft has tried to do with its cloud initiative, and they've done a lot of stuff, but boy, it sure hasn't captured the imagination of its users. I mean, you can get Office in the cloud now. You can. They've got BPOS, which doesn't stand for what it sounds like it stands for. It's the worst acronym ever. It's something business something.
Honestly, it's the key of under promise then over deliver, and with POS as part of your name, you cannot but over deliver.
You can't promise any less. Anyway, let's do our 2 Mac stories, and then you Macintosh folks can go back to your nap.
Go back and cuddle up next to your big teddy bear of hate that you sleep with every night.
I got my 27-inch. Love it. Love it. Immediately hooked up my MacBook Pro to it, and I love, you know, you just plug it in and it runs great, and it's a beautiful, nice screen. And I guess there's nothing more to say. $9.99, available now. Good screen. It's a cinema display.
How does that compare to the 30-inch?
It's smaller.
No, I know that.
3 inches.
Color-wise.
You know what the interesting thing? I have a 30, and the 30 is 4.3. This is 16.9. So even though it's 27 inches, it doesn't feel like such a big screen because it's wide, you know. But great for watching TV. It's kind of like a little small TV in my office. It's got its own speakers, which is, and its own camera and its own microphone. So it kind of is its own,
Yeah. But I mean, based on that, I mean, isn't not to bleed into the non-desktop part of our show, but isn't it interesting that the same month they come up with this really superb 27-inch screen, probably the best consumer display you can get for watching media, and yet they choose to make the Apple TV 720p. Not even for photos will you be able to exploit that big screen. Interesting.
Right. Huh. Although there's no facility for hooking up an Apple TV to the 27. It doesn't have an HDMI. You'd have to buy an adapter and.
Yeah, but it's interesting that they don't get these things working together a little bit better, and by all means, tell me to save this for the next segment or not. But I've been sort of I was out of town, unfortunately, during my primo, like laying on the sofa doing extremely intensive research on the Apple TV time, and so I've just been spending the past 2 or 3 days making it go through all of its really heaviest paces, and the only places where I'm really disappointed with it are where it's doing things like being a Flickr photo viewer, and that's the one place where you realize that, oh God, I really wish that there were more detail on this display.
Yeah,
and on this device. So it's this. So I just think that's interesting. There's that disconnect where they appreciate that some people are going to need to will want to spend a $600 premium on a really top-notch 27-inch display, and yet for the rest of the world, we need to make this $99. Even making this $109 to make it support 1080p is not good enough. Is not acceptable to us.
It's also I don't know. Do they offer mine was glossy. I didn't even notice if they offered a matte. My 30-inch is matte. I like glossy, but I know I'm one of the few. But see, I could sit in the dark, so it looks good in the dark.
It's good to see him putting.
Go ahead, Victor.
It's good to see him putting something out, in this space, because it gives hope to the continuation of the truck line, and I really hope that the truck line continues with the Mac Pros and all of that. So it's good to see them. I think this is a right step in that direction to what we'll see next year when it comes to hardware and, what Steve calls the trucks, what I call the trucks. So it's a good sign.
Steve, famously at his All Things D speech, said, you're always going to need trucks, but in fact, every car originally was a truck. I don't know if that's actually true, but he said it. It's kind of, bending history to suit his needs. But he says, and in the early days of PCs, every computer was a truck, and you'll always need trucks, but fewer and fewer trucks are going to be sold. More and more we're going to see the sports cars, and I guess he thinks of the iPad as the sports car. One more story, and then we will start talking about the portable devices. The one more story that we're going to talk about today, Office 2011, will be available in 3 weeks. Thank you very much.
Now you can boldface like never before.
I'm holding down the Z key. I'm sorry.
Do they have? Are they putting the ribbon in 2011?
Yes, I think they've gotten rid of the menu bars, which a lot of people really don't like.
Except that, how do you do a ribbon? It's not Mac-ish, right? Because the menu bar in the Mac, you got the menu bar at the top, unlike Windows where it was part of the Windows, so you could replace the menu bar in Windows with the ribbon. But in the Mac, now you've got a menu bar in a window, which is not according to Mac guidelines.
Right.
So that was why they didn't do it, I think, for so long.
Yeah. Well, you look at the iPad and stuff like that, and a lot of those guidelines aren't around anymore.
What does it mean anymore? Right. Look at iTunes. What the hell is iTunes?
Even look at Apple's own stuff.
Yeah. Ribbon Schmibben, says Web9399.
They were at the expo this Saturday, and I saw their demo. And Microsoft was, and the big thing they were touting was speed. That was the side-by-side comparison, or the speed comparison between how it's running now and how it used to run. And I just thought to myself, well, geez, so much of that has to do with the architecture and not so much whatever they particularly have done to Office. I'm not an Office user day by day, so but that to me seemed to be what was really being emphasized. Not UI, not maybe super enhanced features, but how much quicker of an experience you're going to get in Office 11 than you used to get.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
What about this reordering of layers feature? I just saw it in the demo video, Victor. Did you see the demonstration of that where they have this sort of mode? It looks like the expose kind of mode they did in Windows XP, where the whole document kind of comes up, turns on its side, and then layers out. And supposedly you can then drag different layers to different levels.
Layers of what?
Nice
in Word or PowerPoint. So if you're trying to
layers
move
of
things front
meaning.
to back. No, layers of content. So, you layer up content in it when you're working on a project. If you have an image and you want to move it to the back, or text, you want to move it to the front. It was like really, whiz-bangy in terms of the visual interface, but it's one of those things where, you're just putting paint and polish on stuff. And it may add to the functionality, it may not, depending on how well it works. And that's why I was curious to see if they had shown that to Victor.
They did show it, and to me, it felt gimmicky. It just wouldn't use it that way, especially if you've been a long-time user of these products. You're going to use the shortcut keys just like we do with the Mac.
They the chat room saying no, there's no ribbons, and then I don't know, but you saw ribbons, Victor.
I believe I did see ribbons. Yes.
Well, they're not calling. I don't think they're calling it the ribbon. They have some other name for it. Maybe.
Speaking of naming, the Entourage is gone, and they've got Outlook. But is it Outlook or is it just Entourage named Outlook?
Looked like Outlook to me. Did not look like Entourage.
So it has the Outlook UI.
Yes, it does.
Okay, that's good, because nobody likes Entourage. But lots of people use it because businesses use Exchange, and I think it's just kind of a natural to use Entourage with Exchange. So it is Outlook.
Yeah, I have to use Outlook every day at work, so I run away from it as often as I can when I get home.
You recognized it. You recognized it. All right.
It just shows you the kind of trouble that Microsoft is in, or the problems that they face, that more and more all of their business is not involved in serving the needs of the person who's going to be actually using the software. It's always about selling 100 seats, 200 seats, 500 seats of this software. So, I mean, it's just like the relationship that BlackBerry has to its users. The BlackBerry is not the phone that people come in to buy. It's the phone that they're handed when they get this new job, along with their new security pass. I think that Microsoft's in that same sort of issue when they're designing their operating systems and designing especially their Office suite. So it's a very, very different thing. I think that's when you compare Pages for the Mac to Microsoft Word, that's really where that sort of thing shines through. I'm sure that there are folks in the Office group who would love to do something that is truly innovative and truly different, but they know that they have to make sure that the thing that will help one college student write a thesis is not the sort of thing that they can really apply to 100 people in a different work group, all running 2 different operating systems and working on 800 different projects.
I mean, Office, at least as far as I remember, Office is the best-selling Mac app out there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, still is,
and it's still like the one Heinz 57 app that you need. That if in terms of getting the work of business and the work of your home business done, that's the Heinz 57 app. That if you have that, you have a good word processor, you have a letter writer, you have a page compositor, you have a web publisher, you have a book editor. Whether you're just writing that 10-page paper or whether you're writing a collaborative 400-page document that has 4 authors and go through 3 different edit cycles with notes and revisions, it's amazing that the same, in many ways, simple little app can handle all that sort of stuff. It's just not a sort of venue in which you can participate in the freestyle portion of the competition. It's all about the compulsories.
Right. Well, and in fact, that's that's what Word is on the PC too, or Office is on the PC too. It's all things to all people, and everybody uses a small slice, 5% of the full power, but it's a different slice for every group, so that's why it's all there. And I prefer, if you ask me, I prefer a power tool that does what I want to do. And I think that's, when we talk about...
So Leo, you're saying that it's a classic case of when you've got 4 people making the same pizza order in one group. It's like, can you do 1/2 pepperoni, 1/4 vegetarian?
Exactly. Yep. That's what it is.
A little anchovies, but not so many people can't pick it off.
That's what it is, really, right?
And then now they're still giving you the home edition, the business edition, the student edition, so they have different price points. That's the big problem I have with it. Geez, just come out with one edition that's priced right, either for a single license or a family pack. Be done with it. You still have to go out there and look at all the choices. I think it's $119 for the home or student edition, and home and business is $199. I'm confused already before I even download it. So that's still a problem.
Again, Microsoft has Office Online, which is free to use and has, it's simple, but it has a lot of the functionality that probably most people want, including, I would think, students. It's total. I mean, if you're using Google Docs, it's similar. A couple of questions. Do people use Open Office on the Mac much? Why are they not using Office Live on the Mac? I mean, why buy this big old honking thing? I guess because nobody ever got fired by buying IBM.
Well, also because it's the one that will absolutely never let you down.
It'll always do everything. You know, it'll do everything you need.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I think that there are very few people whose needs were not going to be served by Google Docs or Office Live. But then you'll get into that one project where someone will just assume that you have Word. Usually, it's anything in which you are no longer working alone, and then that's when you sort of wish that you didn't have to take something down off the cloud. Adapt something from the writing style that you developed just for Google Docs, and find a way to use the same app that everybody else is going to be using once it has to leave your own brain space.
Office is the safe choice then.
It's a safe choice. That's not the usually when you say something like that, you mean it in a slightly denigrating tone.
Yes,
but in fact, as a matter of fact, and that's and there's something to that. But it's not the sort of thing where they're not producing a really solid product. Again, I just feel as though they're pretty manacled by it. You see, there's so many times when you see the first work of a developer after they leave a big product team, like the people who leave the iPhone team and they start producing their own iPhone software. The people who leave the Office team and start working on their own editors, and you see all the ideas. It's sort of like when George Harrison left the Beatles, and then he came out with a three disc album of just the most incredible stuff that he was never able to do when he just got one track.
Let me do.
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny, but it is actually true. I can almost come up with a list of all these different apps.
Then you have Ringo.
Even Ringo had a hit album after he left the Beatles.
Yeah, Photograph.
You see?
Yeah.
It's a time issue too. My wife's a teacher, and she just doesn't have the time to learn something new. You know, it's all her teachers use it, all the people in the union use it. She's not going to go through that learning curve. She's got 31 kids, period. So Office, not only is it safe, it's what she knows.
Yes. Boy, man, we managed to squeeze quite a bit of a conversation out of Microsoft Office. Who'd have thunk it? We have now paid our tribute to desktop computing 2010. I want to talk. We got lots more to talk about, including the fact that the iPad is the fastest selling new category in the history of consumer electronics. But before we do all that, let me talk a little bit about my friends at GoToAssist. These are the Citrix folks who do such great products, and GoToAssist Express is one of them, based on their remote access backbone. GoToAssist Express is for the support professional. You know who you are, the people who spend time on phones saying, okay, it's in system preferences. Okay, click the network pane. Okay, click the advanced. If you've ever been there, if you just wish you could reach out into that computer and fix it yourself, this is the program for you. Mac or PC. You could fix a PC from a Mac. You could fix a Mac from PC. That's nice. Go to assist.com/ let me get this right. MacBreak. You could try it free for 30 days. They have day passes. So if you're not like doing this day in, day out, if you're not a pro doing this, but maybe, I know probably most of the people listening are the tech support team for their family and friends. You designate one day a month. Do it on the 31st. That way you get a few months off. On the 31st of every month, I will fix your problems. You buy the day pass. And see, the beauty is your supportees don't even have to know about GoToAssist or anything. You just send them an email with a link. It'll take them to GoToAssist.com. They'll and automatically populate the ticket number. And the software downloads in like 30 seconds. It's very quick. Java, I'm pretty sure it's Java-based. Pretty quick. Gets in there, and then now you're in the system. You're fixing their computer. You could do all sorts of things. 8 sessions at once means, you never have to wait for an install or a hot fix or an upgrade or whatever, a scan, because you're moving on. It'll always tell you what operating system is running, what background software, including security software, is running. You don't want to run afoul of that. You could drag and drop files from your computer to theirs. So if you want to bring Cocktail over or whatever, you could just drag it over. What else? I mean, I can go on and on. This thing is just fantastic for support. It's remote access built for support. I want you to try it free. 30 days. Go to assist.com/MacBreak. It's remote support made easy. The pros use it, and if you're a pro, you ought to have it in your toolkit. I even think a few of us semi-pros use it all the time. We thank Citrix for their support of MacBreak Weekly. Adam Christianson is here from Mac. We've got 3 of the biggest Mac podcasters in the world here, and then there's me. Adam Christianson from MacCast. great to have you.
Hey,
Victor
great to be here.
Cajiao of the Typical Mac User podcast. You focus on normal people.
Yeah, when you were talking about the other devices, I focused on the Mac. I focus on people who are switching over, people who have been longtime users and forgot how to use some of this stuff. And I just go really deep into, the core OS. I very rarely talk about iPhones and iPads. It's just not what I do. There's plenty of people that are doing a great job. So I focus on the basics, and what you forgot, we probably cover.
That's it. Absolutely. TypicalMacUser.com. And it's a great show. And Victor's been doing it for a long time. Also has been a great help to us here at the Twit Network for a long time. You were editing This Week in Law gratis, and I really appreciate your doing that. I think we've taken that off of your hands, right?
You did, but it was my pleasure doing it.
Nice.
Anytime I can get in front of an audio waveform, I'm a happy man.
Where's your studio based?
I'm in Corona, California.
Oh yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah. So do my day gig and just spend a lot of time here.
What is your day gig?
I work for a large telecom.
Oh, that's interesting. Doing what?
I do sysadmin stuff for processing of billing. We take raw data from telephone switches and process those downstream.
How interesting. Well, you'll be interested in this Verizon story then. Verizon has to pay, what was it, $90 million to its customers. Now, unfortunately, there's 50 million customers, so you're each going to get $1.45. But $90 million is a lot when from Verizon's point of view. They said that they were, I don't know if convicted, they were sued for overbilling. They are going to give back that money to customers who are overcharged on their mobile phone bills. This is exactly what Victor does, due to built-in software that accesses the network on its own. Over the next 2 months, Verizon will notify it's 15 million customers are going to get money back. So you each get $3. No, or $6. Oh, even better.
$6.
Many of the credits will be refund checks for $2 to $6. It costs, I have to say, and then you know this, Victor, it costs Verizon more than $2 to print a $2 check.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Some of you get more. Company statement says, and I don't know why I'm even doing this on a Mac show. No Mac, nobody who uses an iPhone uses Verizon, so forget about it. Forget about it.
Wasn't this supposed to be like a gloat topic?
Oh yeah, gloat. I would gloat, except AT&T screwed me same way exactly. So, and I never got a refund.
How long it took them to figure this out, right? They said for years, over the last few years.
Yeah.
That was the telling part for me. I'm like, really? Years? That was the only part I had an issue with.
When Andy and I were in China, we both bought bandwidth packages from AT&T, and I'll do that again when I go to Paris in December and when I go to South America in February. So I buy the big one, like 250 megabytes, which is expensive. It's like a couple $100, which seems like an awful lot for not very much data. But I bought 100 megabytes. I was monitoring it very carefully, and I used the app that was the iPhone has in the settings. And I was watching usage. And as soon as it got to 99.9 megabytes, I turned off all data. I get home and I'm charged for 150 megabytes. They charge me a lot of money for that extra 50. Victor, I don't know which company you work for, but dude,
hopefully they hooked you up, man.
Well, you know what? Actually, they sort of hooked me up. So I called them and I said, "What the?" And he said, well, here's what we're going to do. And you always know you're in trouble with it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to extend for another month the $100 data thing, and that'll cover most of it. And then you'll owe us a little more. So instead of it costing $100, it cost me $225. But I felt happy. I was relieved. But the advice that they give, and I think this is good advice. First of all, there is an AT&T app. AT&T's My Wireless app. You should use that instead of the iPhone's built-in stuff. And keep it for 2 months, because apparently when you're overseas, a lot of times the extra data billing takes a while to come in. And if you cancel it right after you get back, it won't cover additional stuff in the second month.
Yeah, and please turn it off if you're not going to buy an app like that. My God, just don't go overseas and come home to a $500-600 bill. It can happen so fast.
And just because Verizon's giving you back your $6, don't expect it again. It ain't happening again, buddy boy.
The Verizon story sounded to me like the plot of a Mike Judge movie.
Idiocracy?
Office Space.
Didn't he do Office Space?
Yeah.
Where because they're blaming the hardware, right? They're saying there was the problem was in the phone or the software in the phone. So like some engineer just went, we'll just shovel some pennies over here and then.
Yeah, it's a rounding error. Yeah. $90 million later. So what's all this about iAd? We talked about a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was a couple of months ago now, the fact that Steve and Apple were keeping a very tight rein on the creative side of iAd, and understandably so. They don't want jumping, punch the monkey ads on the bottom of iPhone apps. But according to Business Insider, Adidas, which planned to buy iAds, dropped its plans, costing Apple $10 million. And the reason, again, this is a story in Business Insider, Apple's demand for near total control.
Yeah. And the bigger problem, it appears, is that it wasn't so much that Adidas wanted a punch the monkey sort of ad, but so much as it's almost as if the ad agency had to pitch an idea to Apple the same way they had to pitch ideas to Adidas.
That's absurd.
On what the approach is going to be, what the content is going to be. I've talked to one person who's been in the ad game for about traditional ad game for about 12 years, and said that this sort of thing isn't completely unusual, especially when you're dealing with a pricey magazine, for instance, or a very, very high profile. Like a show like the Oscars, they don't just sell somebody 30 seconds of airtime.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that they will want to know exactly what sort of stuff you're putting in there. So this isn't necessarily a very weird thing to do. Unfortunately, though, and this was his opinion, that if you're trying to build a brand new ad system, you really want to err on the side of really making sure that the creative people in the ad industry don't feel as though you're making it hard for them to give you their money. And that's the sort of vibe that people are getting right now with iAds.
You don't want the situation that Andy Samberg ran into on Saturday Night Live. Should I play this? I know if I play this, we can't be on YouTube because YouTube has that. I mean, my belief is this is a perfect example of fair use.
It would suck because we make so much money off of YouTube.
Actually, you say that, Andrew, but some of the shows get 8,000 or 9,000 views on YouTube. That is not an insignificant amount of money. So if a show is pulled off of YouTube, it's going to, I'll do the math, it'll cost me $1,000 or so dollars if those people at YouTube pull this off. But I don't care because I'm not in it for the money, as you all know. I'm in it for the lulz.
Leo, let's take a vote for the panel. There are like 4 of us here. What if we convince you not to do that and we each get $333?
This is why I like Andy.
I vote no.
Oh, come on.
Oh, all right. If it's for the viewers and the listeners.
It's for the people. It's for the kids. It's for the kids. It's just so I'll just play a little bit of it, but it's well, actually, I can't because it's going to have a big ad if it's a Hulu thing. So I'll just turn the audio off right now, and I won't have any Hulu ad going on.
Is brought to you by Windows Internet Explorer 9 Beta.
You can't get it on Macintosh, nor should you. Here we go. So Andy is in bed. I love Andy Samberg. By the way, looks as somebody pointed out, was it you, Andy Ihnatko? He looks exactly like Mark Zuckerberg.
It's not me, unfortunately.
No, I think that was
Victor.
Victor. He should have played Zuckerberg in the movie. So the burglars are breaking in. He's got his iPhone. He's making a call. He's under the bed, but it's too noisy. So he mutes 911. But fortunately, because he has an iPhone, there's an app for that. He opens up the 911 app on his iPhone. But this is what happens if Apple doesn't keep tight control of advertising.
This summer, Helen Mirren is top dog in Rescue Dogs 3D.
He's getting a big old ad with Helen Mirren. Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Good in anything. She's like the female Gene Hackman.
She's yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yes. What is the nature of your emergency? Home invasion.
Where should we send help?
And he's entering in the GPS.
Please select your theater for Rescue Dogs.
And then please select your theater for Rescue Dogs 3D. He ends up buying 99 kids tickets for Rescue Dogs 3D. Thank you for your purchase. And then it goes through his contact list and mails every one of the people in his contact list, inviting them to join him. Now, that is kind of what Apple's trying to avoid, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, nobody's going to do that on an iPhone, but I mean,
well, some of them are.
Some of them might.
I mean, you open some apps, and that is the experience. I think that's the parity there. Yeah. The thing about what Apple is doing, I think it's similar to what they did with the really tight initial controls on apps on the App Store, and you've seen now they've kind of opened it up, but I think they're launching the new ad platform, and from Apple's perspective, they want these things to be a real showcase for what the platform can do and what they can be. So they're really controlling it. Unfortunately, I worked at an ad agency up in Portland for 5 or 6 years, and one of the worst things you can do to a creative is tell them that that you don't agree with their creative concepts. I mean, it doesn't make that relationship really good. But they had the same problem with app developers early on too, right? So I think they want it really to be exactly how they want it to be, and they're going to work with certain agencies that will work with them. And ultimately, though, they are going to have to open it up. They're not going to be able to continue to do that, especially with other ad platforms out there like AdMob, and they still have to compete at the end of the day.
According to one of the sources for this Business Insider story, Adidas decided to cancel its ads after Apple rejected its creative concept for the third time. An Apple rep did not comment, but has not denied that Adidas pulled out of the iAd program. Adidas declined to comment on, quote, rumors or speculations, end quote, and refused to deny the story. So I think it's the case. And a rep did email, quote, we explore all mobile channels that will help us tell our brand and product stories. Naturally, iAds is one of them. Mobile is an important part of our media strategy, and the success of our My Coach application for iPhone and BlackBerry shows that we are on a good way in. Well, I'm apparently not an English speaker who wrote this, but I think Adidas is going to be careful about pissing off Apple, as we all should be. I've learned my lesson, Steve, and I'm sorry.
I'm not really sure that's true, because this is just an experimental ad platform. If advertisers are really just concerned about getting eyeballs in front of the message, they know that it's inevitable that Android devices will get more attention and more eyeballs than iPhone users, only because you've got so many different carriers and so many different manufacturers making so many more devices. I think that it's going to be like getting an ad into Vogue or getting an ad on the Oscars, where people who want to get a certain kind of extremely valuable consumer are going to get frozen out. But I think that Adidas probably just said, you know what, this is not worth this much trouble for an ad that we're not even sure what kind of return we're going to get on it. Right. It's going to come down to when those first when the first round of high profile ads come back, and they can figure out exactly what kind of response they got compared to what the response they got on the cheap $49 Motophone that people got for free with contract. That's when people are going to realize that, oh, okay, maybe it's not quite so much trouble going through it as we thought. Just like we thought that, okay, if it's $1,000 to not do this, maybe we will do what YouTube asks us to do, just to stick our hand in the till.
Well, it really feels like almost like the app process. I mean, it's the same thing. I would hope that Apple is providing the ad agency some guidelines as to what is needed, what they can do differently to have the most impact based on what Apple knows, which is also limited. So one would hope that that's happening, and they're trying to do some hand-holding here to have their launch be successful as things start out. They don't want the fart app equivalent on on ads, and I think Apple is trying to prevent some of that by working with them. But then it comes down, like Adam said, there's egos. I mean, ad men and women are not known to be soft people who take direction. They give direction.
We don't take direction. We give it. Well, and Android does seem to be coming on strong. Now, we keep hearing stories. This is another one from Nielsen this time. Google's Android software has become, according to Bloomberg, the most popular operating system in the U.S. amongst new, well, see, again, wiggle words, among new smartphone buyers. Bypassing the iPhone and BlackBerry platform, Android was the top choice for U.S. consumers who bought a smartphone in the last 6 months. So it's not taking it in, and this is what Apple said when they had the conference. They were taking into account all owners, but the trend is clearly in the favor of Android. Research in Motion's BlackBerry and Apple's iPhone tied for second place, according to Nielsen.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what's going to be happening to BlackBerry. I had a briefing with representatives of a very major carrier, and it was one of those. It wasn't really a hey, here's this new phone that we're going to be getting. It really was sort of hey, we're in town. We want to talk to you on background about all kinds of different things. So we can basically so you can figure out what our carrier is about. And the conversation turned to BlackBerry, and it really came down to that expression on their face, that tone in their voice that said that, of course, we can't say that BlackBerry is dull as dishwater and it's not a big part of our business right now. But that's pretty much the situation. And if you want us to talk about BlackBerry, I suppose we could say a few things, but there really is nothing going on there. It's these number of things are going to be less and less significant because, once again, the popularity of Android is just going to be the two things. One thing that doesn't concern Apple at all. Another thing that is Apple's problem, one being just, like I said, just sheer numbers and sheer number of manufacturers and carriers. But another thing is going to be that if you go into the store looking for an iPhone that has a certain feature that the iPhone lacks, you have no place else to go. And if for some people, for years, if a front-facing camera was a deal breaker, then that was the deal broken. There's so much diversity among Android handsets right now that if you want a mechanical keyboard, you can get a mechanical keyboard. If you want a huge screen, you can get a huge screen. If you want a kickstand, you can get a kickstand because there's so many of these different models out there.
Apparently, AT&T, which sells the BlackBerry Torch and, of course, the iPhone, has 3 new Android phones today alone.
Yep.
So there you see it. What about this playbook? You got anybody has any thoughts about the new? Now I think we talked about it last week. It's really vaporware. Nobody in the press could hold it. It wasn't. We don't even know if it was a working prototype. It was just. It's a nice video, but it's clearly RIM's. A reminder that Apple isn't the only one in this space. Is that right, Andy? Is that what you?
I really think that's what it was. This is sort of like, remember when the first Apple TV was Apple decided to sneak preview it, but not release it for several months. Right. And coincidentally, they decided to do that around September or October when other people were considering buying things that would compete with the Apple TV. This reeked every frame of it of, we realize that a lot of you are going to be buying each other iPads for Christmas. Please don't buy each other iPads for Christmas because we might have some cool stuff coming out. Right. We can't tell you how much it's going to cost. We can't tell you when we're actually going to ship it, but we managed to pay a guy to produce a really cool video of people in public parks holding something that you can pretend is our new tablet device. Right. So that's really what it's all about. They got a couple interesting things going on. They use the same sort of vibe that HP used, which is here's a small software company with an interesting touch operating system. Let's just buy these guys and make that the cornerstone of our device. They're also doing something really cool in that they're deciding to make it a Wi-Fi only device. They'll make it very competitive with most of the other tablets that I've seen out there, in which aren't even trying to address the iPad 3G's ability to just spend $130 just for the 3G chipset. And if you never want to pay for 3G ever in the future, you can do that. If you never want to have a contract, that's okay too. So this is a way for them to sort of directly compete with the iPad in a way that Samsung and the rest of them might not be able to do. But it really is vapor at this point.
Well, it's almost just a mission statement, right? If we were going to build something, we would have a front-facing and back-facing camera. Yes. We would only have Wi-Fi. I mean, it's because
it's your drunk friend when you're driving him back from the tire store about how his band totally should have rocked, but unfortunately, Def Leppard got there with their album first. They booked this good studio at school.
Well, in the meantime, Apple's making this device available everywhere. That's how they're fighting
Target.
Not only
Target on Sunday, right? Now we can buy iPads at Target. Right. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's. I mean, what a great way to fight this. Not only don't they have one to show anybody, but now it's like the iPad's going to be like Wrigley's gum pretty soon. I'm going to go to Denny's and be able to pick one up, on the counter.
Can anybody compete? I mean, the iPad now is, according to a Bloomberg. Actually, it's Bloomberg quoting Bernstein Research. The fastest, the most quickly adopted non-phone electronic product.
There's those words again.
Non-phone. What would the phone
smells
one
like
be?
Delicious fudge.
Yeah.
Long tail.
Well, but the sales are pretty impressive. 1 million iPhones sold in the first quarter. And 4.5 million iPads sold in the first quarter. The DVD player in its first year sold 350,000 units, and that's what they're comparing it to.
Yeah, that's not comparable because you're not going to buy a DVD player unless you got titles, and there were no titles available for a few
That's not
years.
a good example. Yeah.
Right.
But still, I mean, 4.5 million sold in the first quarter. They're doing about 1.5 million a month still.
Yeah.
It is a bigger even than I thought. I mean, we were very bullish about the iPad, having seen it in January. And even before it came out, I made a bet with John C. Dvorak and somebody in the chat room, oh, for sure it'll sell 5 million a year. And people were laughing at me. They said, no, it won't sell 5 million. 5 million? This thing's already sold 5 million. It's probably going to have sold 10 million by the time the year's out. The 12 months is out.
Yeah, the barometer for me is people like my wife's peers and teachers, and she says, you go into the teacher's lounge now, and they all have them.
Yeah.
And these are not geeks like us. These are people who are working hard and need the device, and they're using it in the classroom. It's a great classroom, and some of the applications are fantastic. Done. They're getting it.
Yeah, I think the most significant thing is that now that all these other manufacturers are starting to show their cards, not one of there's only one that I know of that is firmly building a tablet that is designed to be a real alternative to an iPad. Everybody else has decided to back the 7-inch screen only because it means that they're not competing as directly with the 10-inch screen of the iPad. That is huge. If any of these companies saw any vulnerability in the iPad, they would be going after it. Clearly, they're seeing none.
Nobody's going straight after it. Actually, I think Bloomberg kind of buried the lead here because the analyst from Bernstein goes on to say he covers Best Buy, the first major retailer to sell the iPad. Of course, Target's going to start selling it, as we said. His analysis found that not only are iPads – now, this is what the Best Buy chairman said and then retracted. Well, the analysts are agreeing with it. Not only are iPads cannibalizing the netbook notebook category at Best Buy, they could also be hurting sales of TVs and digital cameras because it's McGranahan from Bernstein says it's a rare American household that would spend $600+ on an iPad and then go on and buy a TV or a PC or a digital camera the same month or the same quarter or even the same year.
So you just got me imagining like a living room with this big white wall with a little iPad.
We got an iPad, baby. What more can you want?
Daddy left home with the $750 for the big flat screen TV. I just got sort of mesmerized by the racing game. And sorry, honey, we're all going to be watching this.
Now, Goldman Sachs downgraded Microsoft, and it's really hurting Microsoft's stock price today, saying, quote, the company, Microsoft, needs a credible iPad answer in the near term to allay concerns that tablet proliferation necessarily cannibalizes Windows sales. This thing is not only, doing well in and of itself, it's killing other markets.
I think that's a little bit overreaching, don't you?
Yeah, I felt kind of the same way. I think what it does is it does maybe delay a purchase or supplement a purchase. I think those things are still going to happen. They're just not happening as frequently. So you might not run out and get that brand new laptop right away because the iPad's meeting a lot of your web browsing and your email and your other kind of needs.
I can see you could say they might buy a TV or might buy a camera later, but really, if the iPad does what the sweet middle wants a netbook or a notebook to do, they're not going to buy one then, right?
Yeah, I think it's more of a case of people came in looking for a device that would fill a very specific list of tasks. They would not, up until last year, they could not find that exact device, so they would walk out with a netbook.
Right.
So it's not as though there really is two identical devices that they have a free choice of. It's that the iPad and the slates that are going to come after it are exactly the sort of thing that a lot of people were looking for.
There's some speculation that Apple or Microsoft, which has its big Windows Phone 7 announcement coming up in a week, might at that time also announce some Windows-based slates. Like, who cares? Come on, guys. They've been trying this for 10 years. Give me a break. That's not going to do it.
And to their credit, they're having some success in tablets. They're
really?
Right now, they are the thing is you don't see people using tablets on the subway to read books and to surf the web. But when you see people It's mostly for vertical markets where when you need a very powerful, very versatile tablet computer for medical applications, it's probably running Windows underneath. When you need somebody to run Windows software that will run a lighting rig or very, very complicated stage rig, the grips and the lighting designers are controlling and adjusting the lights with Windows tablets. So it's not that it's been a failure. It's just that they've really never managed to get these things to catch on in the public consciousness, and they've certainly never been in a situation where someone can't simply walk into a store with the intention of buying a Windows tablet and walk out with exactly what they came for. The iPad is just yet another Apple consumer phenomenon, and Microsoft has not had one of those. I'm actually starting to think back. I don't think they have ever had a situation like that where I'm sorry. Okay, good. Xbox. With the exception of the Xbox, it's probably the only device software device they've ever had that has become a real phenomenon where people just love it and they evangelize to other people, and there's a chance you won't be able to get the one that you want.
Right. Yeah. Well, nice.
The transformative piece for me seems that people are using smartphones more than ever, and when they're doing that now, it's so easy to make that leap into the iPad because they know the operating system. It's easy for them to use it. And so that to me is the bigger story, is that we've seen a tremendous jump in the amount of people, at least that I see in the streets, that are now using smartphones, iPhones, and others all the time. So I think this really leads credence to the way that people are computing now is more in the hand than everywhere else. And it's become just the alternative. I need it with me all the time, one of these two devices.
Yeah, and the other thing that amazes me about the iPad is it adapts to, it's this weird phenomenon. It's this device that I have that adapts to be what I need it to be when I need it to be a certain thing. So great example is, Victor, we were coming down and, I'm checking email or surfing email, keeping up on Twitter, but then something came across and I wanted to post to my blog, and boom, I was able to post to my blog. That got home that evening and I wanted to watch some Netflix. Well, now it's a TV and I'm watching my TV shows. So it's like that thing that I always have with me. It's the right size screen and it's adapting to what I need it to be at any given moment. And I think a lot of people buy it for one reason, thinking I'm going to use it for this, and then suddenly discover, oh man, this thing is really great at playing games too. Maybe I don't need that PSP or that Nintendo that I was thinking about buying.
We're going to take a break, come back with more. This is great having you. Adam Christianson is here from Maccast.com. Victor Cajiao from the... I'm sorry, Victor. You get this all the time. Is it Portuguese? Cajiao.
I'm Cuban. I'm Cuban, but I think the relatives visited Portugal at some time. Yeah.
We're going to Cuba, you and me, buddy.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Before it becomes another, before it turns into Orlando West or East, we're going.
And we're in the same place, and that'll turn into that if we don't be careful. So, yeah, I can't wait. As a photographer, my other podcast is photography, so that'd be perfect.
Adam does Maccast. I think this is is it the oldest Macintosh podcast? One of the oldest Macintosh podcasts.
One of the oldest, yeah. I don't know if I can claim oldest because I think there were a couple shows out there right before I started.
Older than us, anyway. You've been doing it for 5.5 years.
Yep, yeah.
And going strong. So much so that you gave up your day job.
I did. I went full time. I launched a new membership program. So we're doing subscription service, some premium content that people can pay for, and it's working out really well.
I'm so happy for you. That's so great. Although I wish I can't get free Nick software anymore. So that's
no, I don't work for Nick anymore. But they're doing great things too. They just launched a new HDR product. I know that they're really proud of, and it's got their U-Point technology and stuff built in there. So they're doing great without me.
No, they're not. No one's doing.
Well, the website might be hurting a little bit. I don't know. No, they hired some good guys that I actually know, and they're great.
We're going to have more in just a second. We have lots more to talk about, including our picks of the week coming up in just a bit. Before I do that, though, I want to talk a little bit about Squarespace.com. Life is so easy in a Squarespace, as the pundit once said. Squarespace is the easy way to make your very own website. They like to say it's the place where exceptional websites begin. The secret behind exceptional websites. And I have to agree. Our Inside Twit blog is on Squarespace. I'm moving my... I keep saying this every week, and I'm just really slow to do it, but I'm moving my radio show over there. I love Squarespace. Starting at $12 a month. Now, it's hosting and software. And the nice thing about having them do the hosting and software is it's always up to date. You don't have to worry about security patches. You don't have to think about all of that stuff. It just works. They have great templates to make your site look unique. unlike any other Squarespace site, you'll never run out of bandwidth. I mean, that's one of the beauties of Squarespace. You can be Doug Slashdotted and Twitted all at the same time, and Squarespace just goes, yeah, bring it on, give me more. Monthly, yearly, and 2-yearly packages. But I'll tell you what, if you use the promo code MacBreak, you're going to save 10% off for the life of your site. But I don't want you to do Squarespace without trying it first. So as with all our sponsors, well, all of them except Ford, we haven't figured out a way to get you a free Ford for a month. But as with all of our sponsors except Ford, we give you a free trial because I want you to try before you buy. Go to squarespace.com/MacBreak. You can try it you don't even need a credit card. Just, 3 seconds and you've got a site going for free. You can try it for 2 weeks. You can basically, this is it. You name the site, you give it a password, an email address, and you enter in the letters, from the CAPTCHA, and you're done. You've got a site. That's it. They didn't want any more than that. And there's no commitment, no credit card required. And then one of the nice things about Squarespace is they've got this great importer. They'll take your existing blog and comments and put it in there, so you really can play with it, play with the design, and see what it would look like to have a fully functioning site based on Squarespace. I think you'll like it a lot. If you decide to buy, use the promo code MacBreak, 10% off any of the packages for the life of your site. Squarespace.com. I know so many people who are using Squarespace now, and it really gives you the capability of doing a great site. I'm Adam Christianson notwithstanding, we do need our designers. But frankly, you don't have to be a designer to do a site that just looks great. Squarespace.com/MacBreak. Oh, I gotta turn up the jingle.
Life is so easy in a Squarespace.
I like to play that because it just makes me feel nice. What do you?
High.
It makes me feel high. Yes,
It's got to be 4:20 somewhere, man.
Yeah, man.
just checking the clock. Dude. Back to the news. This was a really great week for. My phone is ringing. That sounds like Google. Google's calling me. This is a great week for iPhone and iPad stories, but there are some other stories in here. Google TV. We should mention is going to be, I think, is really going to go public this week. Logitech has a big announcement tomorrow, which we will be covering.
Yeah, it was, and of course they were really made sure that they got out a very, very long press release yesterday, explaining about how many, goodness gracious, it's like the glass menagerie. Oh, we've had to bring chairs in from the neighbors. We've had so many gentlemen callers trying to get off. You wanted to give us more content. It's like,
well, listen to what they got, and this is something that's not on Apple TV, and we'll talk about the Apple TV in a second. Okay. The Google TV service will have content partnerships with HBO. That's pretty
big deal. That means that the streaming service that they've had for years, a year and a half now, is also going to be compatible with Google TV. Big deal. Move on.
Really? Could you watch HBO stuff streaming from HBO's website, or?
If you're an HBO subscriber, there is an HBO on-demand service. It's not like what you're with all these boxes, be it the Roku box, be it the Apple TV, be it Google TV. What you're hoping to see is something where NBC has decided that they're going to be selling the NBC channel through this device, right? And do something that is not available anywhere else, as opposed to
supposedly what this is. It says HBO Go is what they're going to call it, an on-demand portal for HBO subscribers, separate from whatever on-demand offerings available through one's cable provider. So what's unclear is, do I have to subscribe through my cable company, or can I subscribe directly to HBO? That would be, would you agree, Andy? If I can go to HBO directly and subscribe, that would be a big deal.
If it would be a very big deal if this is something that is only available on Google TV. Not only that, if it were an exclusive to get Google TV for the foreseeable future.
It won't be, of course. Because HBO is not going to give Google anything like that. CNBC, big deal. You can get that anywhere. Turner Broadcasting, same thing. NBA.
Okay, but when you look through this list, especially I'm looking directly at their own site, and this is not like third-party commentary. I'm looking directly at the site, and they're saying they've got 4 bullet items that we're saying Turner Broadcasting has been hard at work optimizing some of their most popular websites, and so the translation there is that the web page that's available from any web browser will also be available on Google TV. NBC Universal says we're collaborating to bring CNBC real time. Okay, big deal. This is something you can get stock prices on the TV screen while you're watching CNBC. Nice, but not great. HBO. I need to refresh my knowledge on HBO Go. My recollection of it is that it's kind of like our device does Netflix, just like other devices have done and will do Netflix. NBA Game Time. That is a big deal because that's exactly the sort of thing that a TV integrated web device should be doing extremely well. Just like MLB at Bat. If that app were to make an appearance on Apple TV, that would be a very significant thing. But so essentially all they've done is they built one of these apps so that it's available through Android, through Google TV.
Unlike the Apple TV, this does have apps.
It will run apps the way that every single Android device will run pretty much any Android app. During the demo, when they unveiled it during the Google I/O Developer Conference, they were showing Pandora running on it, and it looked like it had been. It was just the standard Pandora app that was super stretched, didn't really fit the screen.
That would be bad.
Well, it's not necessarily bad. I mean, my beef with Apple is usually that I would like to have the choice of having a bad user experience if it's the difference between running Pandora on my TV and not. But it depends on whether Google can really leverage that. I had my Apple briefing on the Apple TV recently, and of course, I had to ask them a question about iOS, and of course, they couldn't tell me anything about future apps that may or may not ever appear on this device. But I think that if Apple really wants to compete with Google TV, they're going to have to open up the secret chest and start talking about how this is an iOS device. It runs apps. The app development process is exactly the same as it is for any other device that we make. And at some point in the near future, there is going to be the ability to have the third-party apps installed on this device. If they decide to simply sit on their hands for a while, that's something that Google TV could exceptionally exploit. And it's definitely a weakness that Apple needs. That what I'm getting at is it's kind of a silly weakness where if they do have plans to make this box available for third-party apps, they really should start to at least hint towards that right now, rather than make sure that anybody who has $100, $150, $200 in their pocket, you want them to go buy the Apple TV today for Christmas instead of buying the Logitech box today for Christmas.
Yeah, because that's the competition, right?
Yep.
According to Gizmodo, an iPhone developer, Stephen Troughton Smith, has installed apps on this Apple TV.
Yeah,
because it's got 8 gigs of storage on there for reasons no one understands, and it has a USB port. There's only one little problem. You can't launch them. But they're on there.
Right, get them on there.
It needs a launcher.
Yeah, and that's inevitable. I mean,
jailbreakers would probably do it, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, God, was it one day before the thing was jailbroken, and now we have a confirmation that apps have been launched on it, and so if it won't take long. Everybody wants to be the first to break the speed of sound, and everyone's going to be trying to get third-party, especially iPhone apps, launched and running on this.
Right. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know why Whoopi Goldberg just appeared. I don't know what this is. It's random video on the Gizmodo
it's
site.
It's an ad for Gizmodo. It's not actually.
Oh, it's an ad for Gizmodo.
They tricked me too, Leo.
It looks like it's. Yeah. Oh boy, they totally tricked me. It looks like this is going to be having something to do with the article.
It's about how much exposure they got by leaking the iPhone 4.
Oh, thank you, Gawker.
They leaked the iPhone 4? Wow.
Oh my gosh!
Well, they got to run.
I'm just amazed that like today you go and that's stamped on every single page a link to the video story about leaking the iPhone 4. It's like even Woodward and Bernstein, they moved on after the story was over.
Right. We got the iPhone 4 now. We don't really need the
If we keep harping on about Nixon, we're going to look like idiots.
Yeah. Not that I would know. I haven't been to that page in a while.
Yeah.
The thing I'm wondering about on apps on the Apple TV, and I've been thinking that, and I agree with you, Andy, I think they need to start letting us know so that doesn't happen this Christmas, that people go out and get another device or wait for something else. But I have to imagine that we're going to see Pandora and ABC, that I think Apple is going to selectively put apps on there. I'm curious if they'll actually open it up completely like they've done the other iOS platforms.
Yeah, it's already a big deal if the only advantage of having iOS on this device is that Pandora, Hulu, and all these Netflix. Netflix is a separate issue. Hulu and all these other guys can simply say, you know how we spent 2 months developing this app for the iPhone? We can get this running on Apple TV in about 1 week. That's already a pretty big advantage. If third parties able to think of interesting ways in which they can use the Apple TV, even better. It's the idea of running arbitrary apps in this device. That's going to be the sort of thing that helps convince people to spend $100 on a device that they may not necessarily need. I think we're going to learn a lot about what kind of a challenge Google TV is going to present tomorrow when we finally find out exactly how much this Logitech box is going to cost. If it costs $99, that's going to be a really complicated decision for a lot of people. If it costs $200, well, who cares?
Really? Yeah. So it's all about price point.
I really think so, because for $100, people are going to be really receptive to all those bullet points. That, well, if the right person wants to steer somebody towards a Google TV, they can say, well, look, I mean, if you got your stuff in iTunes, great, you can stream stuff via iTunes, and yeah, maybe you can get stuff from Apple specific content partners. What Google is offering you, however, is the ability to access the entire web, including Flash content through your TV, and all these tens of thousands of Android apps will all run on your device. And really, all they're asking for is $109 versus $99, and it will still stream Netflix. So why is there a choice? If they're charging $200, they have to answer the question, am I going to be getting
$100 better? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. $99 was such an important price point because it's so psychological. A lot of people are going to be thinking, I didn't necessarily need this, but I can imagine myself absorbing this cost very readily and getting more than $99 worth of value out of it.
Now, you were able to make a good case that, well, maybe all of this list of features that Google's expounding, which is a long list compared to iTunes and Netflix, is some of it smoke and mirrors, but consumers aren't going to know that. They're going to say, oh, look at that. Look at all those things it does. Yeah.
The second mistake that Apple has made is that they don't have AirPlay ready to go yet. It requires the new iOS 4.2. Once that's out, they can put the really great dog and pony demo of what this device can do and how it integrates with everything else you have in the house, as long as everything else in the house has an Apple logo on it. That's when they can really that's when they can really do the razzle dazzle and show off why this is the best $99 thing you'd ever buy for some people. Right now, Google already has the thing where they can say, oh, here's the video on my phone. I don't want to watch it this small, and fling, now it's on my 73-inch plasma screen display for all to enjoy and be wonder at. AirPlay really is pretty ambitious. There's things that we expect to see next month. Immediately, we'll be able to do things like you're on your iPad or on your iPhone, and you're just someone on Twitter links a YouTube video that's kind of interesting, and so you open up in Safari and you're watching it on your iPhone. Right from Safari, you will be able to simply say, you know what, I want to actually watch this on my Apple TV right now, and it will simply find it and send it over there. Right now, built-in media players, the Apple's own media players will support it in 4.2. The Safari, the movie player, the iPod app, the movie player app, and Apple told me that in the future, third-party apps will have access to that functionality too. But that's, again, something that's kind of generic. I'm sorry, not generic. It's kind of a vague thing that you can't really explain to a user. You have to show it to them. And I think at launch date, Google will have a lot more to show users that they can imagine themselves using.
Right.
I think it's going to be about who can tell the story best here in the last quarter before Christmas, as people have these decisions to make. You know, you can bet those Apple ads around Apple TV are going to be ramping up, and AirPlay and everything else, because I think that's really going to be the differentiator for not us geeks, but for the average consumer up there that is going to have to decide between 2 or 3 boxes, Roku, Apple, Google. So it's like, who's going to tell this story best? And I think Apple has done a pretty good job with the integration of being able to say, you own an iPad or you own an iPhone. And so that's going to be the story they have to tell. I think Google's going to have to reach mass market in a different way than they do currently to be able to get the average consumer to say, yes, that's what I have to have because of all the things Andy said.
I agree with that completely. If you already have an iPhone, if you already have an iPad, and especially if you already are using iTunes to manage your library, you have to start with the decision, why would I not get the Apple TV? And why would I get something else other than an Apple TV? Because it integrates so well and so sharply. If you have never used Apple devices before, things get opened up a little wider. The bottom line story is going to be that these are between Google TV and Apple TV. Those are two different devices with two different perspectives. Apple TV seems to be centered around the idea that you have all of your content already. Now we need different ways of getting access to it, or getting or getting links to things that are streaming. Google TV is, as you would imagine with a Google product, it's all about search. Meaning, I'm not going to be looking necessarily on a programming grid to find programming I want. I'm just going to type Nash Bridges or Cheech Marin. And find wherever I can find it, wherever I can download it, wherever I can stream it, or wherever it's on a DVR or in a program listing. So it's interesting. Both these companies are still trying to figure out how to convince people that they want a computer that's hooked up to their TV set. For now, I think that Apple is a little bit closer to what people want. Google really is centered around you want a web browser on your TV set. Yes, you want to surf the web sitting 15 or 20 feet away from the screen. I'm not sure if that's... consumers are going to have to either prove or disprove that theory.
We like the Apple TV. I tell you, as a podcaster, I like it. Especially as a Twit podcaster, because you turn it on and the featured podcasts right there in the bottom, Twit. So, I mean, podcasts are given a nice position, I think, on this thing.
Yeah, it's so cool to just mark it. You just search for a podcast in the iTunes library, not your iTunes library, but the iTunes library. Right. Mark it as your favorite, and suddenly, Robert Llewellyn's new electric car video podcast is now simply a show that you get to watch whenever it comes on.
I love that.
Wonderful.
Adam, you have one? You're using it?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I got it day one, and the thing that amazed me right out of the box was the out-of-box experience, other than the fact that they don't give you the HDMI cable, which they need to take care of in the Apple store. But assuming you have the HDMI cable for hooking it up to your TV, it was plug in, and I'm accessing content. Yeah, I mean, it was literally that simple.
And you pointed out when you were in here on Sunday, like $2 for an HDMI cable from monoprice.com.
Yeah. I went out to Fry's and I had to really search out. You know, they had the monster cables in the big giant display, and then you kind of went over and they had some of the Belkin and the $20 cables, and then way down in the corner there was a 6-foot cable, and I think I paid about $5 for mine. Yeah. But Monoprice had them for like $1.36.
I think I ordered at some point like a dozen HDMI cables from Monoprice because I just knew that this would be coming up, and I just have a closet full of cables.
Do you think that part of the problem was that they just figured that we can either give everybody a free HDMI cable, or we could make the box a little bit smaller?
It's so compact. In fact, I cannot get the power cord back in here because it's so perfectly wound in here.
Yeah. I have exactly the same problem. I brought it with me up to Petaluma so I could show it to some people, and I tried to wind that cable back in, and it was hopeless.
You can't. It's like Pandora's box. I bet you, knowing Apple, they had Foxconn invent a machine that would wrap this just so it would fit in this box. And you're right, Andy, just so it'd be that small. Yeah. So no room for HDMI.
I'm going to New York on Thursday. My room has like a big TV that has multiple inputs, and now I'm thinking, maybe I should bring this little box with me, just not because I'm going to use it, but just because I can.
That's intriguing. People carry around that. You brought your Apple TV with you.
Adam did. Yeah, I had not been convinced to buy one, and that was the use case that convinced me. Adam brought it up with him, and we said, we have a TV here. Let's plug it in. Now, we did run into some problems in that a lot of these hotel TVs are locked out so that you cannot put an HDMI input into them. But Adam, take it over. You did some Google foo, and then we finally figured out a way to get it done.
Yeah, we did some Google searching and found some, then you can find how to open up these things. And even I think Victor, we ended up doing some social engineering because we just called down and said, look, we're working on a business presentation. We're at a conference. We need to show this thing, and we need it opened up. And they brought up the special green remote that accessed the HDMI.
Was it a special suitcase that was like illuminated when you lift the lid to it?
It was one of those, the writing on the back,
and turn them at the same time.
The non-locked down remote. So where there's a will, there's a way. But there's Wi-Fi. The only other problem we ran into was that in order to get it on the Wi-Fi network, you have to have the Apple remote because the remote works over Wi-Fi, the sharing works over Wi-Fi. So I wasn't I had accidentally forgot the remote, and we're like, well, no problem. We have the iPhone, the iPad app. Well, guess what? We couldn't get the Apple TV on the Wi-Fi
because you
network.
couldn't enter the
right, because the remote works over Wi-Fi and everything works over. So you have to get it up. Once you get it up on Wi-Fi, you're
Oh,
you're
I
gold.
see. You can't use the remote because it's on a Wi-Fi network. I get it.
Or if we had a physical Ethernet connection, we could have probably done it too. Because it does have Ethernet on the back.
I do like the new remote. I have to say they did a nice job.
It's
especially on the iPad.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. You know what else was updated on the iPad? If you have a Sonos, they've updated their iPad app. Too. I'm becoming a huge fan of Sonos. Sonos is like the Roku for audio, and it plays your iTunes music. It plays your. It doesn't use AirPlay. It just does Wi-Fi. It plays Pandora, at Last FM, all the radio stations in the world, and I use it for an alarm clock, and it's great. Anyway. Enough of that. I think it was a pick of mine some time ago, but now that they have an iPad app, I really am loving it. So we were talking about Control. One more story, and then we're going to get to our picks of the week. We were talking about Control. Ron Gilbert, who created Maniac Mansion and Monkey Island 1 and 2, hasn't had a lot to do lately. So he's going on. He's got a big rant on the way corporate censorship controls what appears on these boxes. And he's not singling out Apple particularly. He mentions Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and Comcast. But he does say, and I just thought I'd throw this out at you, quote, Apple has maintained an almost North Korean-ish dictatorial control over the devices, becoming the arbiter of what is good and bad, what is allowed and not allowed. They don't have this control over the Mac because it's a real computer and an open device, but they can do it with the iPhone because we were convinced by the cell phone carriers they needed control to protect their networks. And Apple was happy to jump on that ship because they could finally control everything that went on the device, and we bought into it. Apple apologists say that Apple needs this control to maintain the specialness of the device. I say that's a load of bull hockey.
Monkey Island was such a very long time ago, was it not? I don't know. I mean, my position has always been that I do think that the level of control that Apple maintains over the devices has a benefit for the consumers. And if Apple were ever to push that button so hard that it starts to ruin the device, inevitably, it's not like Apple has a lack of competitors who are waiting to pounce. They're the ones who'll die and pay the penalty for it. So long as Apple's willing to roll the dice and make those mistakes, okay, let's let them do it. So long as there continues to be, a situation where when I go looking for an app on my Android devices and an app for my iPhone devices, so long as I continue to prefer the ones that are available for iPhone, as long as I continue to regard the iPhone as a much better experience, I really don't care how the bread gets onto the table.
He does make a good point, and the only reason I bring this up is because he does point out that Apple didn't do this on the Mac, and they only were able to do it on the iPhone and then the iPad because of the carriers already, kind of control of the platform. Do you think Apple, if it had the capability, would have asserted this kind of? I think they would have over the Mac.
Yeah, I think they might have. An interesting data point.
Which would have been very bad, by the way, for the Mac.
Well, at the conference that we did when we did our keynote speech, I think Brian Chafin or one of the panelists asked, or it might have been Chris Christianson, asked, of the room, there were about 250 people in there. Raise your hands if you would like Apple to, control apps on the Mac OS X desktop, and one hand went up.
Yeah. Consumers don't choose this kind of control. I don't think if you asked the same thing about the iPhone, you'd get the many hands.
No.
Consumers don't choose this kind of control. You think they would, Andy?
I just don't think that's at the level at which consumers really look at a device. If you ask them a poll question saying, would you like to have more control over your devices or less control over the devices? Well, obviously they're going to choose the first thing. But if you put in front of them two phones, both are products of different ecosystems, one of which is very, very tightly controlled and managed, and as a result, the apps work extremely well together. Every service that's available for the OS is also reflected in the phone up and down the line. And a second device where there's supposed to be a way you can launch a URL, but this one doesn't support it, and there's supposed to be a way to switch between open tasks, but this one decided that because they wrote an application for the BlackBerry, they want to just reuse that same bit of code. If you put the two devices in front of each other, then you might get a very different story.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Freedom
We
is
will
a
find out because
feature.
there is a free market, and because their iPhone sales and Android sales can be tracked.
Well, and I think that the assumption there that the phone companies were the dog and Apple was the tail. I think that in this particular case, Apple was saying, "Look, this device can save my life. You know, if I need it to, and I need it to work as that device." And I think
so. That's what's different about a phone.
Absolutely.
Well, what about a pad?
Well, I think the differences are that the carriers are at that particular point. They're not the ones. I think Apple went to the carriers and said, "Look, this is how this device should be run, and we know that if you run it this way, you're not going to have not the concerns of business, but the concerns that come along with what can happen if there are fatal accidents because of the 911, commercial if it went that way."
Right.
The real serious issue of that is that it would be a sad thing to lose someone over not being able to use that. I think in this case, Apple went to the carriers and said, we have a solution to that problem for you. And the solution isn't, let's just shut off all the features, as some carriers I know have done, but it was, you can work with us and have the cake and eat it too, if you will.
Right. Let's do a couple of wacky stories, and we'll get to our picks of the week. Julio Ojeda Zapata, who writes for the St. Paul Pioneer Press and is a good friend of the show, discovered that at the Mall of America, which is one of our biggest malls, one of the biggest malls in the world, there is an Apple store, and soon, my friend, soon, your heart's desire will come true. Right across the way from the Apple store, there will be a Microsoft store. Right across from the Apple store. Let the market decide.
Well, and it's a monster. I think it's like 3 times the size.
Yeah, look, this is the Apple store here.
Yeah.
And then the Microsoft store goes all the way down the hall and all the way around.
They need a much bigger tech support area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it creates its own weather system at this point if I look at the size of that store.
Holy moly. I think this is going to be a great test of something.
It's like, oh god, it's such a no-win situation for anybody. I mean, it's if
only Microsoft can lose in this. I mean,
you're basically what they need to do is just, oh god, I just imagine myself like I'm being such a snarky bastard and just going in there and saying, I've got this with a YouTube camera saying, here's a device. Let's see if it's easier to get this device on Apple's free Wi-Fi or on Microsoft's free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you're right. Here's Julio's video of the Apple store. This is the Mall of America, which is a very big mall, lots of foot traffic, and then across the way, coming soon, the Microsoft store.
Do you think they're just hoping people will get confused and be heads down and might wander into the wrong one?
I think it's actually
look at the people on the wall there. They
look like happy
Apple people, right?
They look like
wearing
Apple
the blue
people.
T-shirt of death.
I think in a way this is really great for consumers because you got a choice. You can walk into one, take a look at what's there, walk across the way. This is exactly what markets are all about. Oh, and there's the Lego store if you really want to get a Lego computer.
No, that's a competition right there.
Yeah, really.
I've gone. We have luckily there's 2 Microsoft stores near me. One up in Costa Mesa, I think it is, and they just opened one down in Fashion Valley. And again, it's the same thing where I think in Fashion Valley's case, the Microsoft store is on the left side, and Apple's on the right side. But I've walked in and they're pretty nicely put together, but I noticed everybody's just kind of standing around staring at the Surface table.
Yeah. Ooh.
Which is really cool. I mean, it's fun to play with, but it's sort of like, exactly. I don't know if it's going to be the phenomenon that Apple stores have been really in terms of promoting the products.
Yeah, it's really. I love it. We'll see. We'll get a report from Julio in a couple of months. Our final story: the actor Tony Curtis passed away last week, age of 85. One of our greatest actors. You remember him from movies like Some Like It Hot, The Sweet Smell of Success, The Defiant Ones. He was buried at a funeral attended by his daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, and porn star Ron Jeremy. I don't know what he was doing there.
There's a free buffet.
Free buffet. And he was buried with some of his favorite items, the novel Anthony Adverse, which inspired the name Tony Curtis, an Armani scarf, driving gloves, a Stetson hat, and his iPhone. Yes, Tony Curtis buried last week with his iPhone. And friends, if you're thinking about my funeral arrangements, can I have the iPad? I like the larger screen. Thank you very much.
I just hope they turn roaming off. That's all I'll say.
By the way, somebody's doing Find My iPhone right now, and it ain't there anymore. I don't know where it is. Isn't that great? I love it. Let's take a break. When we come back, I am going to give you a chance to do your picks of the week. I don't know if did Eileen warn you guys that you got to come up with some picks?
Yep.
Oh,
She
yeah.
did.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
We're all set.
So you will have picks. But I want to tell everybody, if you don't want to be buried with that old iPhone, if you perhaps like to trade it in for a newer model for your final journey, about Gazelle.com. Don't just sell it, Gazelle it. Gazelle is the place to get cash for your gadgets. And this is actually a great time to upgrade to an iPhone because you enter in your old iPhone. Let's say you got a 3GS. So I start typing iPhone. Look, it shows you all the different iPhone models. I'm going to say, I think this is actually the iPhone I have, the 32 gigabyte. Does it make a call? Yes. Well, it's as well as AT&T ever did. Free of water damage? Nope. Haven't thrown that in the water, and it's perfect condition. AC adapter, original cables. And I am going to get a check for $222, enough for me to upgrade to my iPhone 4. That's what Gazelle does. You take all of your used old gadgets. You get them to send you a box. They send the box out. Return the postage is included. You pile it up with stuff. You send it off to Gazelle, and they go through it. Their experts will check the condition, make sure it matches what you said. They'll wipe all your personal data, by the way, and then they will send you a check for what it's worth. It is a great way to get rid of gadgets. And if the gadgets are too old to be sold, and I know we have a few of those too, Gazelle's recycle network is green as green can be. This is the best place to get rid of electronics responsibly. Gazelle uses only EPA-approved recyclers that meet and exceed all of the, the EPA requirements. They use Cloud Blue as their primary recyclers. They're band certified, ISO 9001, 2000 certified, and on and on and on. All the important stuff. No exports, no landfill, no use of prison labor. So a great place to recycle. One more thing I'd like to mention, if you're a nonprofit, Gazelle can help you. This is the modern cake sale. They will set you up with a gadget drive webpage of your very own, gazelle.com/Petaluma Panthers. That's our local football team, our Pop Warner football team, the Panthers. And then you tell all the Panther parents, just go to Gazelle with any old gadgets you got, and all the money goes to our cause. Better than a bake sale, and less expensive than putting an event on. Let me tell you, a lot easier too. For all kinds of gadgets, cell phones, laptops, cameras, gaming consoles, MP3 players. Don't sell it, Gazelle it. Go to Gazelle.com, and by the way, after you've put all your stuff on the list there, and you're ready to check out, little trick here. Just put MacBreak in as the coupon code, and they'll bonus you another 5% over and above what they've already promised. Additional 5%. Don't sell it. Gazelle it. And by the way, if you want to support MacCast, does your coupon code work?
I don't think so.
Oh, nuts.
No, but you can do the membership thing.
That's right. Go to MacCast.com, member.MacCast.com, and support Adam in his quest to never have to work for a living again. Is it member or members?
Member.
Single member. You got one member.
Become a member.
Become a member. Yes. MacCast.com. I should do that, actually. I've been listening for ages. I really ought to give you a little something to the MacCast. For Mac Geeks by Mac Geeks. You get extra episodes, member exclusives, automatic delivery.
Yeah, I actually just posted for the members the audio from the Petaluma keynote.
Oh, that's awesome. It's only that's what
they're getting it early. They're getting it early, and it will be available to everybody else.
We've been trying to figure out what can we do, because people do donate, and that we give them Squat. So I'm really trying to think of Squat Plus. What more?
Yeah,
what
and
more?
Members get extra episodes. There are a bunch of extra episodes that are member-only shows as well.
I like that idea. MacCast.com. Victor, you got to do that too.
Yeah, I should.
I look at, somebody like Don McAllister has really made a go of it with freemium product, and I think it's a really great idea, a great way to go. All right, time for our picks of the week. Andy Ihnatko, we like to start with you. What is your pick this week, my friend?
Well, I'm glad I had to leave early because it would have been before I knew that the creator of one of my favorite word processors for the iPad was going to be a special guest. It would have been awkward to say, "Oh, there's this really great app called Elements, and I'm really a big fan of it. I think it's awesome." And then it would have been doubly awkward to say, "But there's like one or two things I don't like about it, and sometimes I use this other app that's also awesome." So
Justin was with us last week, and he does make a great product. But what do you have instead?
I got two. There's the photo app for one. There's an app called Plain Text that I like a lot. I like both of these apps, but just for different reasons. This is Plain Text. If the auto exposure is going to work.
No, it looks good. Yeah, we can see it.
And
this is from the Right Room folks, right?
Exactly, the Hog-based software, I believe. And they do two things. It does two things extremely well. Now, first of all, it is your basic edit text files that live both on your iPod and on Dropbox at the same time. But it has a feature that I really, really like, which is what you're looking at right now. Or what you're not looking at right now.
Now you're looking at it.
Now you're looking at it right now. It is simple. It is uncluttered. It is very, very, very pretty. It's not a stark typewriter interface, but at the same, it's a very, very lovely thing to be looking at for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours while you're trying to write something. And even when you go to see the app, the file listing to open stuff up, it doesn't use the standard iPad file picker, or rather iPad gutter interface. He does a brand new type of view that I think it's really, truly is a great example of how iPad apps should be written, because there's nothing on that screen that shouldn't be there at the time that it's there. When you do need to add lots of information there, it's done in such a beautiful and lovely way. And if you're in sort of a long form writing jag, where you just need to write, it works incredibly well. The only thing I don't like so I said that I switched between these two apps because when I'm writing like long form and I'm not writing for purpose, I tend to go for plain text because it's just so nifty to look at. I switch over to Elements like this when I'm writing columns and stuff like that on my iPad, because it's just it is part of the simple word processor movement, but it has two special features that are hard for me to live without. One is just a simple word count feature. So if I need to know how close am I to I can't go too long for print, and also I try to keep an eye on even when I'm writing things for the web. If it's 1,500 words, that's just about right. If it's 2,000, 2,500, okay, son. Once I exceed 3,000, I'm like, you know what? You know that 800-word intro about the banana splits? Maybe we can lose that because this is just about Microsoft Excel. That's
the best part of the review.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I might be insane here, but that's just something that I try not to be too self-indulgent. And it also has a simple clipboard feature where if you tap the button up in the upper corner there's actually sort of like a second text box, so that if you're using it as a scratch pad just to type up some ideas before you put into the main document, or because you're just sort of migrating stuff from another document, it works extremely well. Both of these apps work great. I'll zoom out while you're looking at this so you don't get the extreme close-up of any eye infection that I might have. The other cool thing about using these apps is that it's possible to then have the most wonderful multitasking experience you can have almost on any editor. I was writing a column while I was in Pennsylvania last week at a Starbucks, and there's that point which I have to make sure I double check all my product names, all my stats, all my facts, and of course this is just even when you have the multitasking operating system, it's so difficult to switch. But you can't just have two overlapping windows and work on it that way. But then I realized that, well, I forgot. I also have Elements on my iPhone. Yeah. So I actually had like the iPad was right in front of me, and I was doing my research, and then I was actually making edits directly into the exact same file on my iPhone. No synchronization, no transfer, no anything, because it was the exact same file stored in the exact same place, and all just worked majestically well. So I love both of these apps. I'm glad that there's I'm going to be interested in the horse race that ensues because the developer of plain text, there's always going to be the plain text. It's free if you're okay with ads. For $4.99 you get the ad-free version. But he's also working on a version of Lightroom for the iPad for people who want like more of a high performance editor. Who knows when that's going to be released, but you know that's in the offing. But I think we all agree that the best situations happen when you have two incredibly talented and incredibly good apps that are trying to steal each other's lunch money on a daily basis.
Jesse Grosjean is great. I love his stuff, but I love Justin's stuff too. So you're right. We give them both plugs, and they do different things. And you know what? I have both of them on my iPad. So
exactly.
That's the truth of that matter. Let's see what Adam Christianson has for us. His pick of the week. Adam?
Yeah, I have a game, and I checked the website to make sure nobody had picked this yet, so I don't think it's been picked. Has anybody picked Fruit Ninja?
No.
You know
it's funny. Yeah, I talked to a guy who was like a huge Fruit Ninja fan the other day, and I keep seeing it as like somebody is constantly recommended. What is Fruit Ninja?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan. Let's see if I can hold this up for the folks at home. I don't know if I can get it right. Oh.
So, the glare,
the glare. Really see it.
Yeah.
Well, but what I love about it is I love games that take advantage of the multi-touch interface for their gameplay. So the idea is if you think of your finger as a katana, a katana blade,
yep.
and you slice across, and what happens is the fruit kind of flies up from the bottom, apples, pears, watermelons, and then you slice it. And the idea is to slice it before it drops off the screen. And you get points. They have two modes. They have a classic mode where they also throw up bombs, and you want to avoid the bombs and slice the fruit. If you slice multiple fruits, you get bonuses. They also have a Zen mode. If you just want to go Zen and not have to worry about things, you can just slice fruit. You're timed and that. But the thing that put it over the top for me recently is they added Game Center support, and they added a head-to-head. So you can actually go head-to-head through people in Game Center. You have your achievements. You can keep track of your scores. So you can now work with work against your buddies and try and get your rankings up and stuff like that. And it's on the iPhone, it's 99 cents. They also have an iPad version, but I really just like the iPhone version because I can pop it open and play a quick game. And it's just beautifully designed. I love stuff that's really well designed and put together. And you can even do things once you get really skilled. Once you become a super ninja, it does support multi-touch. So you can use 2 fingers and 3 fingers.
You can use 5, I'm told. Somebody told me, yeah, you can use all 5 fingers if you really
if you can do that kind of maneuver, that's like that. That's almost like getting in the, zap the PRAM area of finger agility. But yeah, you maybe have practice.
Now see, you made this all okay with me. I mean, we've not lost the Mac if we can still say zap the PRAM.
Yeah. Just a really fun game, and I stumbled across it, and it got even better with Game Center. So
I like that. All right, I'm buying it on both the iPad and the iPhone because it sounds like I need both.
Yeah, it's fun.
Fruit Ninja. Thank you, Adam Christianson. Let's go to Victor Cajiao. What have you got for us?
So I've got something from a Petaluma company, Bias Sound. It's called Sound Saver. And I run into this issue all the time where I have a lot of old albums and cassettes because I've been a musician for all my life. And they have this product, Sound Saver. It's $49.95 retail. And it comes with a little cord that you can then use to hook up your turntable or your cassette deck to your Mac. And then it'll bring the files in. They're using their Sound Soap technology to get rid of the pops and the clicks and the hiss. And it does a really good job for the price point. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but for the price point, it does a good job, a consumer product. And man, it's just been really great. I brought it home after the conference. And last night, even though we got home late, I put an old band audio that I had from, a long time ago, 79. And it did a really good job. Controls are easy, and it's cheaper than Sound Soap at $79. You can get this for $49. So it was nice.
I've been using Sound Soap for a long time. That's kind of the king of cleanup plugins for any audio program, and I like it a lot. So that's good. I'll have to check this one out.
Yeah, and that's over at bias-inc.com, I believe.
bias-inc.com. I found a very interesting iPhone app that lets me. There's a Chrome plugin for it. There's a Mac app for it, and there is a a Windows app for it. It's called let me see if I can get this right. My iPhone, I bookmarked it, and of course I've lost the bookmark. I think it's My iPhone Desktop. Or My Phone Desktop is myphonedesktop.com. And the idea here, oops, let me put the screen up. The idea here is that you can very easily transfer phone numbers, URLs, maps, texts, notes, or images to your iPad, iPhone, or iPod Touch from applications on your desktop. We've had kind of this capability on Android for some time. This is such a great idea. You download the Mac, Windows, or Linux desktop client and put that on your desktop. There's a Chrome plugin, too, which I use Chrome all the time, so that makes it even easier. And then you put the application on your iPhone. You create an account with My Phone Desktop. The application for the iPhone is the only thing that costs money. I think it's a couple of $4, something like that, $4.99. And then you can very easily get data from your desktop to your iPhone. It's the kind of thing that you want to do all the time, like with the map link before you go out the door. This makes it very easy. iPhone on your desktop. It's called My Phone Desktop at myphonedesktop.com. That's where you can get the information. And then, of course, you go to the App Store if you want to add it to your iPhone. It works with the iPad, too, by the way, which is good. $4.99. iPhone or iPad. Copy stuff over. Isn't that cool? All right. MacCast is at maccast.com. That's Adam Christianson's fantabulous podcast. 5.5 years in the making.
Still going.
Still going strong. So great to have you, Adam. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. Keep up the great work. Victor Cajiao does the Typical Mac User podcast, typicalmacuser.com. And can we hear you play anywhere?
No, but next year, one of my goals for 11 is to do another CD. So next year, you'll be able to hear me play for sure. And Leo, if I can say, my other podcast is the photography podcast, typicalshutterbug.com.
Typical
Same
Shutterbug.
idea, photography.
That is, and I listen to it all the time and love it. You do a great job, Victor. Thank you. Andy Ihnatko is also a performer, as we now know, on his ukulele. Ukulele. He is also the guy in charge of technology for the Chicago Sun-Times. His own website is www.cwob.com. Alex Lindsay had the day off. He's traveling, as always. But I think he'll be back with us next week. Maybe Merlin Mann will join us as well. Thank you guys for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. We do this show live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 1800 UTC at live.twit.tv. Tune in and watch. The pre-show is always fun. That's where you hear things like the ukulele concert.
And things like, freaking Skype, what the hell?
You can hear Andy swear at Skype. You can watch forbidden YouTube videos. And you get ukulele. What more could you ask for?
Here you go.
11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC, live.twit.tv. And when you're there, do join us in chat, because that's always a lot of fun. The kids in the back of the class. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on MacBreak Weekly. The musical interlude with Mr. Andy Ihnatko. So Frederick, they sent us, they said it was MacBreak.
I go cleaning windows to earn an honest bob. For Rosie Parker, it's an interesting job. Oh, it's a job that just suits me, a window cleaner. You would be if you could see what I can see when I'm cleaning windows. In my profession, I work hard, but I'll never stop. I'll climb the shrinking ladder till I make it to the top. The rushing blind, she looks divine. The bridegroom, he is doing fine. I'd rather have his job than mine when I'm cleaning windows.
Hey!
Should I call Velvet?
Wow, I'm going to have to book it with my cousin to Sábado Gigante. Andy Ihnatko en Sábado Gigante. Tocando el ukulele.
Sábado especial, súper especial.
Empezando por el Polgate.
I'm so far out of tune.
Pinball Wizard, baby.
There you go.
I can name that ukulele tune. And
Well, I'm gonna go with MacBreak 2. That's what's in the copy. And I guess nobody.
You're welcome to use my code, Leo.
You know what? I will. You got it. Do you have a Gazelle code?
Oh, yeah, MacCast.
We're using it.
I think it's still valid, hopefully. Wait, maybe you better use yours.
No.
Let me check
That's much better. MACCAST?
Yeah, let me check
That
it.
solves that problem.
Seriously.
I'm giving them the advertising dollars.
Somebody, I think I might have had an email that said it
Doesn't work anymore?
wasn't working.
Oh!
Let me check it. I was kind of joking, but I'll check it.
Yeah, check it. Give you a little plug here. Victor, do you have one?
I don't have one.
Damn, how could that be?
I know. You tell me.
Sorry we're starting so late, folks.
Leo, you should have seen the hailstorm we ran into yesterday on the way home on the Grapevine.
Really? A hailstorm?
Yeah, Adam recorded
Wow.
It was pretty serious.
Wow.
Just I came out of nowhere.
Jiminy.
Yep.
I actually am really enjoying the Mukaluka Heka Heka Leke Leke Hey of Andy
Actually,
and his
this
ukulele.
was public domain, so we can leave it in.
And the performance, you're not asserting copyright? MacBreak 2 does not work.
I'll Creative Commons it.
MacBreak does.
Oh, there you go.
So I'll tell you
Use
what,
that
we'll use MacBreak since we don't know if yours works. And somebody just tested MacBreak.
Pause in life's pleasures and count its many tears while we all sup sorrows with a pour. And many fears, oh, hard times come again no more. It's the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered outside my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more.
Andy Ihnatko, ladies and gentlemen. Andy Ihnatko, amazing impromptu performance. They're applauding all over the studio. Everybody's very happy, except for the two people who met on Cupertino. They're just looking at each other with love in their eyes.
I'm available for the reception.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know how to play the electric slide yet, but I'll learn for the right.
He will play at the wedding, folks. Aaron says, sounds good to me.
The bunny hop.